Hello, this is Kirk, and thank you for viewing another video. This is a Unix Commerce presentation that should go into some detail on how Unix Commerce works. So in this really quick video, I'm going to show you how to install WordPress in 3 ways. We're going to learn how to install WordPress using cPanel, using the QuickInstall package that is included in cPanel. Then we're going to learn how to install WordPress over FTP. And then finally, we're going to learn how to install WordPress over command line. So let's start by bringing up the website. Now we're going to navigate to unixcommerce.com. All right, in the upper right-hand corner, you should see some links. Let's go ahead and click the one labeled Client Area. And here you're going to enter your username, and password. All right, now go to Products and Services. Let's go ahead and save it, make it easier. Go to Products and Services. Click through on the hosting package you want to install WordPress on. And then you should see down here more information about the package. So we're using that much disk space and bandwidth for the month. And we're on the 31st, so that's going to reset to 0 tonight at midnight. But yeah, that's over almost 20 gigabytes of bandwidth. It's pretty good. That translates to about a couple thousand users or visits. All right, so we click Log into cPanel. And then what we're going to do is look for the QuickInstall module. Here we go. And then we're going to locate the WordPress installer. There we go. All right, now click Install WordPress. We're going to give it a subdomain called WordPress. And we're going to call this one WordPress 1. We're going to give it an admin email. Let's just call it WordPress 1 to keep it simple. Username. By the way, you don't want to make your actual username equal to the word admin. That's a bad practice, and it could get you in a lot of trouble really quick. So yeah, to prevent people from hacking you, never name your WordPress admin username admin. All right, so up here we have the admin area and the username and password to access it. I'm going to go ahead and open Notepad, and we're going to go ahead and paste that in Notepad. Now, let's go ahead and check it out. unixcommerce.com/WordPress1. You could exit that. You can even exit that. And let's see if our new installation is showing up. Remember, you could install this under the root domain. You don't have to put it in a subdirectory. So don't feel limited by that. I'm going to call that WordPress 1 and enter. It's moving pretty slowly. All right, but here we see we have an installation of WordPress. Now, it's very important to note that when you install WordPress using the quick install feature of cPanel, you're going to have a lot of bundled software and a lot of call to actions to buy additional software, buy themes, buy plugins. You don't really need any of that. That's where installing over FTP and then in the future installing over command line comes into play. So let's go ahead and install our second installation of WordPress. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our favorite FTP client. I'm going to head back to the desktop and drag this over here. I prefer IP switch WSFTP. It is not free, but it is really, really solid as far as security is concerned. But if you do need to, you can install WordPress over FTP using like an open source FTP client like FileZilla. So don't feel limited to installing using WSFTP. All right, so we already see the directory that we just created, WordPress 1. Let's create another one, but this one we're going to call WordPress 2. All right, and we're going to enter the directory WordPress 2. Now, since we're not using a quick installer, we're going to actually have to venture out onto the internet and download WordPress. So let's go ahead and do that. So we go to Google, WordPress.org. I can't spell. All right, WordPress.org, and then we're going to download WordPress. In the download, let's go ahead and copy link address. And we're going to download that. So there we have it coming in. We already downloaded it a couple times earlier, so let's just use one of these. And here it is. So what we're going to do is upload that WordPress installation or WordPress archive. Not even the archive, but the entire file system over FTP. So let me get started on that. It does take a little while. And when it's done, we're going to use the web-based installer to complete the installation of WordPress. So there we go. And since we're on our desktop, we could just drag the folder over here, but I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're going to go to desktop, and we're going to locate the directory, WordPress. Hold on, something happened there. We're going to go to the desktop, and we're going to enter WordPress. All right, there we go. And then we're just going to select all and just drag that over to the WordPress 2 directory. So it's going to copy all the files to the server. Now, while this is happening, I'm going to make use of my time by setting up the database that we're going to need for that WordPress installation. So let's log into cPanel again. WordPress does support MariaDB and MySQL or MySQL. So depending on the version, it might not be the same version of MySQL, but you can look into that with the latest requirements of the software. Right now, our version should be sufficient. So we just go into the MySQL feature in cPanel. We're going to name it WordPress 2. And we're going to create that database. Now remember, you're going to have to actually create a user along with that database. So let's go down to add user, add new user, and we're going to call that WordPress 2. And of course, we're going to have to give it a password. That's what we're doing here. Pretty good security. So let's create the user, but we're still not done. We're going to have to add that user. We're going to basically have to grant privileges to that user on that database so they can do more than just log into it. So let's go to WordPress 2 and WordPress 2 and add user. Now we're going to assign all privileges just to make this go by really quickly. We don't have to worry about what type of access we need for installing, but I'm sure all of that is documented online on WordPress's website or on pretty much anywhere on the web that has to deal with WordPress, that has to do with how to install it. But for now, we just need to give it, we could give it all privileges because it's not going to be a public website. We don't have to worry about the security of it. So let's take a look at our FTP transfer and see where that's at. We're at 18%. I love WSFTP because it's really slow. That's not why I love it though. It's slow with a purpose. So it's making the file transfer a lot more secure. That's why I like it. So let's minimize that. And while that's going on, we'll go ahead and gather the information we need to install it. So we're going to open Notepad again. And let's see, we're going to need a username. We're going to call it admin. We're going to need a password. Let's call that letter 39. We're going to need a database name. So that's going to be admin _ WordPress 2. That's the name of the database. It's also the name of the user. We're going to need a password for that database. I also use 39. We're going to need an email for the user, and we're going to need a name. So that's all ready for us to install. So this is installing WordPress over FTP. Let's take a look at our transfer and see where it's at now. Got a long way to go. So it looks like it's going to take about 15, 7 minutes, 4 minutes. Okay, time's speeding up. So about 3 minutes left to complete this transfer. And one other thing you're going to see is, installing WordPress over the command line kind of cuts down on a lot of this work. So you don't have to wait for a transfer to move from your computer over your ISP to your host. So that whole section of time is going to be removed from, your wait. All right. So if you're grasping what's going on so far, good. None of this is really difficult, and it's pretty powerful concepts here. So if you know how to do all of this without too much difficulty, you're already, with enough skill to build and manage a website. Well, maybe not plan it and build it properly, but to actually administrate it, you have the concept of how the website works, so it shouldn't be too difficult. So let's talk templates, because we're gonna eventually need a template for that WordPress installation if you don't already like any of the templates already pre-installed, which is probably the case. So we could start with a blank theme. You just search WordPress blank theme, and blank slate. That sounds good. All right, look at that. That's only attractive to designers that actually design from scratch. So it's just going to be the raw elements of the page. That's pretty cool. Here's another blank template. But if you want to get up and running really quickly, you can purchase a template from a site like Template Monster. I tend to use these guys every now and then. They're not the cheapest, but they're by far the most convenient. So let's say, here's how you would use it. For instance, let's say you're a plumber and you need a quick website to basically advertise your services and maybe accept payment online or allow people to communicate with you without having to pick up their phone, maybe live chat, who knows. You can actually type here, plumber, and then WordPress. I do not know how to spell plumber. Plumer. All right. Huh? Nothing for plumbers? That's very, very... Yeah, okay, here it is. So here we go. Let's say this floats your boat. Let's take a look at this theme, and it's a WordPress theme. So you could actually have a website designed around this theme in no time. Oof, looks pretty cool. Professional plumbing, premier quality. Nice. They blur the images because they don't want you to steal their stock photography, and also you don't own the right to the images even though you own the theme. So keep that in mind. You will have to supply your own images for obvious reasons. If you're in New York and your theme seems like it's set in the middle of the country, no one's going to believe you're legitimate because that's not who you are. So keep that in mind. So let's take a look at our transfer and see where it's at now. Okay, we're gaining some speed. Looks like it's fluctuating pretty wildly. A few seconds ago it said 1 minute, now it's up to 4 minutes. So let's give it a little bit more time to transfer. Let me see if there's anything else you need to know. Okay, so for installing WordPress over command line, you will need a command line utility. My favorite one is Putty, but from my job, because I also have a job outside of this business, they like Secure CRT, and I'm starting to like it too. So I'll show you how to install it over Secure CRT. So it's basically the same thing, but you can manage multiple sessions, and it is just jam-packed with security features. So okay, I might just fast forward through most of this because it is a lot of uploading. So I'm pretty much just going to fast forward through this because this is just painstakingly long if you're watching the full cut. Thank you. Macaroni. Mic test. Alright, so we're almost done. It's going to pretty much speed through the rest in a few seconds. Alright, so it looks like the transfer is complete. Now we can actually visit the directory that we uploaded those files to. If you look at the directory, you'll see it's WordPress 2. And we can actually trigger the online installation tool. WordPress 2. Alright, now installing WordPress over FTP and actually getting to launch the web-based installation wizard is going to give you a lot more options for customizing your installation of WordPress. So first, as you see here, you can choose the language. So let's choose English, and you choose whatever language you speak. That's going to create a setting that changes the language of basically the language file to your native language, so you won't have to actually read any of this. So database would be in database in your language, and name, username, all of that will change when you do that, as well as every other part of the language template of the WordPress installation. So you're going to need that. But keep in mind, you're going to have to customize your install. First, the database name we said was going to be this, so admin WordPress 2. The username is the same. The password is Earth89. The database host is localhost. It's localhost because it's on the same machine. The database server and the file server, the web server, are on the same system, so like localhost works here. And then the table prefix, you'll want to change that to secure the installation, but it's not necessary. then we hit submit. If you see this screen, that means you're good to go. It has basically detected the connection to your database. Alright, so we're at the point where we can set up the username and password for the installation. Let's call this website WordPress1. Username admin, password, let's make that letter 39, and email, and then we click install. And just like that, we have 2 working copies of WordPress. So if we delete the admin URL and we just enter the root directory, we're going to see the second installation. So the first installation, remember, we called unixcommerce.com/WordPress1. So that's the first installation of WordPress. And then the second installation we called WordPress 2. Okay, we call this WordPress 1 too, but the URL says 2, so don't be confused by this. Alright, now let's set up the third installation of WordPress, and we're going to do that over command line. So we go ahead and let's close FTP, and we're going to bring up secure CRT. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to connect to the server that we're connecting to, in this case Unix Commerce, and we could pretty much hide it for now. We don't need to go back into that. Alright, now let's go ahead and list structure. This is the root of that server, or that virtual server. It's really just a part of a server, and here it is, but we're going to have to install in the public directory, so we're going to change directory into public_HTML, clear the screen, and we're going to see the structure here, and then we should see some directories, WordPress 1 and WordPress 2. So we have WordPress 1 and WordPress 2 here. Now we're going to need to install another copy of WordPress, and we're going to put it in WordPress 3. So let's go ahead and get that file. So to find the file, we just go to wordpress.org and hit get WordPress, and then if we just click on this and click copy link address, you'll have URL of that version of WordPress. So the command is get in Unix, so get, and then the directory, or sorry, the file, and sorry, wget, and then the file, and that's going to download. Look how fast it downloaded it, you know. So who wants to wait on FTP? Not me. All right, and it is a zip archive. Let's structure again just to make sure we have it. And it should be called latest.zip. There it is. So we're going to unzip that with the command unzip. Okay, not unisp, unzip. And then that directory. And it's going to unzip the archive. And now we're going to have an archive named WordPress, and there it is. But remember, we're not installing it as WordPress. We're installing it as WordPress 3. So we're going to actually have to change the directory. To do that, we go nv WordPress, and then select the new name, WordPress 3. There we go. Clear on the structure again, and there we have it, WordPress 3. Now, let's go ahead and open up our browser. And if we go to our browser, let's close that out, and then just copy that URL here, put it over here, but instead put 3. We should have the web install of the third copy, the one we're going to install over the shell. Now, the next thing we're going to need to do, since we're not using cPanel and we're not using FTP, we're going to have to create the username and password for the database. The database doesn't even exist yet, so we'll need to do that as well. I'll show you how to do that in brief, but let's just set it up over cPanel to make it easier. And it maybe gives you a better idea of what we're doing if I do it this way, as opposed to doing everything over the command line, because command line is kind of complex for people who don't have an education in it. So, right. And then we create that user as well. Save it, go back, and then we're going to add that user to the database. So WordPress 3 is going to be added to the database, WordPress 3, and we add, and we give it all of the privileges. But just to show you how the command line looks when you're doing something like that, let's just go to root. You're going to want to log into MySQL. So logging in, you just type MySQL. This is all Unix-based operating systems. So any Linux will work using this command. So MySQL, the U flag for username, and then the P flag for password. It's going to prompt you for the password. Enter your password, and you're in MySQL. So let's type a quick command like show databases. So show databases. It's going to show you every database available on that web server or database server. And let's say we wanted to use admin_WordPress 3. We just type use and then admin_WordPress 3. Sorry, user. We need to type use, not user. And there you go. So we've changed to that database. We can type a command like show tables, and it'll show every table in that database, which should return nothing because we haven't installed anything on it yet. But let's go ahead and install something, and we'll see a change. So it's the same process. You go to English. If you speak English, type let's go, and then the database is admin_WordPress 3, and the username is admin_WordPress 3. The password, sorry, too soon. I didn't put the right spelling of WordPress. Tab, not enter. Okay. All right. Password is going to be letearth89 because we gave it that password, and then the prefix is going to be the prefix. And then we hit submit. If we get the confirmation that it connected, we successfully logged into the database. Now let's go over to secure CRT again, and we're going to run that same command, show tables, and we're going to see a bunch of tables. Empty set? Okay, I guess the WordPress didn't install it yet, so we have to run the installation. Sorry about that. Yeah, you should see at least 20 tables doing that command. So the site, let's call it WordPress 3. The username admin, terrible name by the way, not secure at all. And then the email address. And then we install it. All right, so the files made it to the database. All right, so let's go ahead and navigate back to the home page. Let's go back to Secure CRT and see if yeah, there it is. So we know the database was installed successfully. But all of what we did over cPanel can be done through the command line in any terminal emulator like Secure CRT or PuTTY. If you want to get something that's free, you just create user, literally create user, and create password, basically create the account that you want, create a database, create the account, and then grant privileges for that user on the database you created, and it's just as simple as anything we've done in Secure CRT or in command line, and run the web-based installer like you saw us do here. So we have 3 installations of WordPress, one done through the QuickInstall plugin or module in cPanel, which is pretty much dead simple, but it gives you all of this unwanted garbage. The second installation done over FTP, which took a long time, as we saw, and then the third installation done over command line using Unix commands. So it made it a lot easier. And as a matter of fact, you could create a shell script if you wanted and execute this shell script to install 100 WordPress installations in 10 seconds. So that's the power of command line. You get a lot more control. If you have any questions about this video, any content in this video, or if you want me to go over this in further detail, if you need any assistance with your WordPress installation, just reach out and I'll be happy to help. All right, have a great day.